Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry. Hey there, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Eating Habits podcast. And I'm your host, Jamie Lynch. Before we get into this week's episode, I'd like to invite all of you to check out a special event I'm doing this Thursday at Church and Union, Charlotte. The event is called the Louisiana Culinary Trails Special Dinner. I'm collaborating with the chef Lyle Broussard from Lake Charles, Louisiana. We've got a collaborative menu, 4 courses, or you can order the courses a la carte. It was a lot of fun to collab with him. We will be cooking together on Thursday night. It'll be fun to be able to meet all of you, chat about the dishes and our collaboration, talk about the cuisine from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and anything else you guys want to talk about, get some selfies, whatever. So please call up the restaurant, go on Open Table, and get your seats before there are none left. Hope to see you there. Enjoy this week's episode.
I'm here hanging out, doing a little podcast. My name is Jeff Tonidandel.
My name is Jamie Brown. We are a married couple here. We're in the restaurant business.
It's good to tell people we're married.
Yes, we've been married for almost 17 years.
And you didn't take the name.
I didn't take the name.
We just put that in our staff handbook. That it was because it's like partners, you know, Jamie and Jeff, and then we're like, and they're married.
And they're married.
Yeah, they're not like partners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or business partners, but they're actually life partners.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
So did you not take the name because you couldn't pronounce it?
Mostly, a couple things. I don't love the idea of all the paperwork that goes with it, so that was part of it, for sure. I was just flat out like,
admin related.
That's some paperwork I didn't feel justified in like doing for her either. Like,
right.
You're going to take my name.
Right, I got this, honey.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and fill out the paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but also, I think I've always been Jamie Brown, and I feel like women now can do whatever they want. So I just thought, let's be a trailblazer and let's do something a little different and keep my name.
You can do whatever you want.
You can.
Can't you?
You can do whatever you want. And yeah, it's just, I think people are allowed to do that throughout, Europe. There's many women don't take their husbands' names, and I see it more and more. And it's always, I feel like I look up to a lot of the women who haven't changed their name. I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of woman I want to be.
Nice.
Got to stand on your own 2 feet.
I like it. How's that?
Not that it has to get political.
Do you get to, so does she stand on the 2 feet and you ride on the back? Is that like is she carrying you, Jeff? Is that what's going on?
That's how it goes. If you see our, company culture and stuff, there's a lot of really strong women in very high places, and I pretty much just do whatever they tell me to do.
I love that.
And I'm really good at it. That's what I do.
We have a lot of strong women in our group as well. They far outnumber the men. In our from like an executive level, and even like our chefs, we have a lot of female chefs too that work for us. So that's great.
It brings a different dynamic than how it was 15 years ago.
100%.
And that they can carry on with a restaurant career or a career in hospitality and be able to have children or raise a family. Like that's something that's really unique too. That has not always been the case.
They're all way more capable than I am. So it's awesome.
So what do you do then?
That's
like if they're all carrying the weight, Jeff, what are you doing?
I don't know. I usually just end up, I get this like the stuff at the end that nobody wants to touch, and you have to do a whole bunch of problem solving on, and I'm like, okay, well I'll sit down and figure this out. But that's all I have. A few tasks that just nobody wants to touch, and then but that's it.
Acts now. I mean, He and Chris Roginski, our executive chef at Supperland, run all the culinary across all of the places. And then really Jeff's like very much our CFO, you know what I mean? So he just makes sure, taxes and finances are all in order, and that's something that a lot of, like, I do not want to touch that.
Yeah,
I need somebody to do that.
And I'm in the process of trying to hand off the culinary too, of
really?
Like, to Chris, and working through all that, and just to even free myself up more, because he's better at it.
Yeah.
So as soon as he gets the whole branding piece, and I can just kind of have that big overarching strategy.
Yeah.
It's going
Be
well.
some of that partly the idea guy that's like.
Is that
hey,
what you find you're doing more? I know you're sometimes in the kitchen, but
yeah, I'm mentoring a lot. Like, so my main focus right now is the chefs. It's trying to get the chefs comfortable in their own skins, using their cooking voice, using their own like management styles to run the stores.
And yours is that's more of a management piece and growing them from a management perspective, rather than like the food strategy.
Yeah, and the food's part of it. Like a lot of it is like food theory, like we talk about, because it's important. One thing that I think we're doing that's unique is Church and Union is expanding into other markets, but it's not the same restaurant. If you go to Church and Union in Charleston, and you go to Church and Union here, the menus are not the same.
And you're giving each exec chef just the ability to kind of
to create the menu, and so we have a framework, right, of the concept that I want them to kind of work within, but I want them to have their own kind of style and cooking voice. So that is a challenge. Mm-hmm. How do you have a concept that it's the same no matter where you walk into, but the menu's completely different, the chef's different, there's a different style to the cuisine.
Yeah.
And so that's been a super challenge, because I don't know of any other multi-unit place that does that.
No, that's very, very unique. And
what's the point of having multi-units if they're all making different stuff?
It's not efficient, right?
It's
not efficient,
right? But to me, this is the hospitality business, not the restaurant business.
Right.
So I'm not about pumping out as much chicken sandwiches as I can make.
Yep.
We're about creating experiences.
We've started saying over the last several years, we're not in the restaurant business, we're in the entertainment business.
Nice.
Which it's similar to that. And yes, there's that hospitality piece, but people are dining out for very different reasons. People have so much more money than they've had in the past, and they want to come for an experience, and they want to feel what it feels like to be in that place and have that like nowhere else. And that's something I think you might be tapping into with having Church and Union have such different concepts in each one, that you can go here and then go here and you get this totally different feel.
Yeah, and we really push our front of the house staff, like our servers and bartenders, to kind of bring their own personality to the table. For
sure.
Yeah, like
I think that's what. Yeah, we're on board with that.
There's no script, right? It's not like we have our steps of service, right? Like all these things have to be done from the time somebody shows up to the time they leave, but kind of how you do it, that's up to you.
One of our big things too is we have very casual dress codes. It's like you have to wear a white shirt. We don't care what it is.
What style.
It just has. You can be a t-shirt. It can be button-net, whatever you want to wear. The apron and jeans. And meanwhile, you could be having a table, especially at Supperland, it's $100, $200, $300 a person.
Yeah.
And you have nothing to hide behind but your knowledge. You're not walking up with white gloves and a tuxedo, and you just have to. You're basically just walking up there and throwing down and be like, I got you guys tonight, and I can do this in my white shirt because
your seatbelt.
Yeah, exactly, because I know all of this stuff backward and forward, and it's a big part of kind of what we believe in. So
that's awesome.
Roll up, throw your tattoos down,
and do you guys have a lot of tatted up servers over
there?
Well,
we're all in Plaza Midwood and Noda, and we love it over there.
Yeah.
That's kind of our culture and people, and so.
Let's talk about. I want to talk a little bit about. I want to get to the culture thing. I want to talk more about that because I think that is so important, and that's a lot of what the podcast is about, right? It's the culture of it. But let's real quick for the people that are listening. How did you guys get started in hospitality and restaurants? Because you guys are not. You didn't come up
typical.
You're not. You don't have the typical story of like grandma cooked for you, and then that like you had to become a
Grandma
chef.
did cook for us, though.
Right. Well, she always did. Right. But
we have very unique food backgrounds where, like, as children, he grew up in a home where his mother didn't cook at all. It was all like
she tried to.
She tried, or it was out of
Let's not call it cooking.
I'm not judging her. I get it. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a household where food was very unusual. I was raised on a macrobiotic diet because my father had gotten sick, and so he changed his diet, and all of us changed too. So food was very different for us growing up, and it wasn't something that you don't want to eat the food that I grew up eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I will spare you all from that. But as time went, I think really our story is one about having a dream. Jeff has always loved hospitality. That was the industry that he was in when he was doing sponsorship for a NASCAR company here in town.
Oh, cool.
I was always in the food business, oddly, but at Lance Snack Foods, very different.
Yeah, wow.
So it was food,
How
but
do
it
you
was.
end up there from?
I had gotten my MBA and I went and wanted to be in product management.
Okay.
So I went that route. And so it was, packaging design and new product development, getting items from, the test kitchen out to market. So very different. But he had this kind of crazy dream of opening a restaurant.
That dream gets us all at some level.
It does, and I think coming at it, I have this huge passion for food, and I think we've learned when somebody's like, yeah, I cook at home, and you're like, that's the worst reason to open a restaurant. But I think you have to have that passion and like underlying, but I think the hospitality is really what drove me into getting into this, even though I always like love cooking and I'm super into it, and that was a big driver of what we did and where we went and all those things. But having this wanting to curate experiences for people and give them a great night out, and that whole piece driving everything, I think is the key to getting into this business.
Right. So what about that curating the experience excites you guys? Like, why is that important to you?
I think we've always lived a very adventuresome life. We both had these very corporate jobs, but a year after we got married, we put all of our stuff in storage and we left with a backpack on our back for almost 9 months just to go see the world. We went all around Europe, we went to Asia, and that experience, I think, really opened our eyes towards what could be, and just the beauty and the value that humanity can get out of experiences around food or travel. And that's when we came back, is when he took me to dinner one night and said, no, I really do actually want to open a restaurant.
I know I mentioned it, but I'm actually serious.
Sorry.
We talked a lot about it. It was so exciting and dreamy, but we were on this trip, and it was so fun. But then you come back.
It's okay to talk about on the trip, but not at home.
Not at home. You shut your mouth.
Now we got to do real stuff.
Real stuff. And I think that's what's different. I think most people have those same voices in their head, whatever it is that they want to do, and it's kind of allowing yourself to do the things that light you up. And I think a lot of people cover that because they go become an attorney and they want to wear business casual, they want to have the perfect job and make people happy, make themselves happy, provide for their family. But I think every one of us has that sense of adventure within us. Yeah. If you can just tap into it and let it happen.
I
love that. That's such a great reason to do what you guys are doing.
Yeah. No, and now I think a huge driver, and I overuse the word with the staff, fun, over all the time, because that's what I think we really care about, is like when we're building Supperland, I want this place to be the most fun steakhouse in Southern Steakhouse, or however you want to describe it, but the most fun steakhouse in the country. And that's why I wanted to have windows, and I wanted to have cool music and have this vibe, and let's spend a whole bunch of money on a big fire grill and have some cool atmosphere.
And it makes it more fun for us if we're thinking about what the guest wants. If we know, okay, they want this whole experience to be really, really fun, enjoyable. This is about them, being entertained and really experiencing something. And so then in the build out process, we really try to make that be a part of it. We love building out restaurants. It is so much fun. It brings us so much joy in the process. And then you end up with this baby at the end that's so beautiful.
And then you have to raise it for 20 years.
Yeah, I know. I've got one that's over 10 years, and it's like, well, so do you. You guys got.
We had Crepe Cellar, which was 13.
A little love, right? You got to put a little refit on it.
You have to sometimes do that.
Yeah, we're thinking about that for Charlotte, actually. We're thinking about doing a massive.
What are you thinking about doing?
Everything.
Okay.
I mean, I think Patrick, my partner, said something about an open kitchen. I was like, are you out of your mind? I was like, bro. Open kitchen's a whole nother, that, But I think, I don't know if we'll go down that route. We're still we're discussing what we need to do, but it needs a facelift. She's been, working hard for 10 years. So, the floors are beat.
And that's where we were with Crepe Cellar. We have this restaurant, it's profitable 14 straight years. Yeah. And then you're just like, well, we need to put money into it. We own the space, so it's also a different dynamic of it's a much more long-term thing that we're in
Right.
for, a huge bit of time. So we're like, if we're going to put money into it, let's, just
Let's go
blow it up and do something
Yeah.
really cool.
I haven't been in there since the refit. How?
You'll like it. You come anytime. Text
Okay.
us and
Yeah.
come over. They've done such a great job. The team is just, I mean, the build out itself was an incredible experience because we did a little bit as Crepe Cellar was closing, and then we closed for 5 weeks, and literally it was just this massive manic dash to get that thing open.
Yeah.
We kept everybody on staff paid during that time, which
Yep.
was, you can imagine, just
Yep.
you know how fast everybody
That
can
money
lose their
goes
shirts. It goes
fast,
so
man.
fast.
So
Holy
fast.
smokes!
We had hoped it
Yes.
would be 3 weeks. It was
Yeah.
5. The team is doing an awesome job. It's all homemade
Yeah.
pastas, and we just launched a large-scale to-go menu too, so that you can order like take and bake lasagna or
Yeah.
pre-made homemade pastas and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So
It
they're
still
doing a
has
great
the
job.
coziness that
Yeah.
used to come in and sit at the end of the bar, and still
But it's
still
brighter
has
and
that.
more
But now it's like
colorful and-
it's just brighter and
Yeah. It's
great
and
cocktails,
just
a little
awesome front of
fresh.
house
Yeah.
staff, like just it's a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we did a minor. So the minor refit that we did at Church and Union, kind of we were changing the brand, right, from
Yeah.
Five Church to Church and Union, and we wanted to like refresh it and kind of add some new stuff for people. So we changed out like the furniture. I think it's the easy way, right? Like change all the bar stools, change things that people are just used to, like they won't really notice, but it'll be enough that they're like, this is something's different. We changed out some light fixtures and refreshed some of that, and then we did that giant mural. So we have like the vestibule that separates the restroom area from the main dining room, and we basically had like all the artists that have done work for us in the past come and each do one of Aesop's fables
Oh, that's neat.
on this mural, and it's so cool.
oh, that's fun.
And they're all completely different. They're all totally different style. It's very just kind of like pop art, like crazy, which is nice because it kind of, our decor is very like kind of black and white, and we got the Art of War, and it's very kind of like industrial artist kind of goes crazy type in there. So to have these like kind of pop art thing jump out at you, it kind of like shocks people into this new experience.
Oh, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I
that's
like it
fun.
a lot.
It's really fun.
But now we're 10 years later, we're like we gotta like change some things. The space, like I think rearranging the space a little bit would be cool. Like,
Well, you've learned a lot over these years of like where are the pinch points? Where do you think people would enjoy their time more casually versus sit down
and I don't know if you guys experienced this, but when we opened Five Church, we didn't have any money.
Oh, that's the
Like,
thing.
like we had no money.
We opened Crepe Cellar with just 11 tables.
Yeah.
That's
Because
where
you
we
couldn't
started.
afford the other 6,
Right,
right?
right.
You're
Well,
like,
there
we
was
can only
that
get
too.
11. Let's get 11.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah.
How many can we afford? But so like a lot of that design was out of just like lack of funding to do anything else, right? So we made it work. And I
It
think
never looked like that though. It never felt like that
no,
in there.
yeah,
It
they
didn't.
did an awesome
Never
job
did.
of putting it together.
Yeah.
Just to put that into perspective, I think the grill that we have at Supperland was maybe $10,000 or $15,000 less than the whole entire
Build out
opening
of Crepe
Yeah.
build out budget, everything that we put into Crepe Cellar.
That's amazing.
Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
But it was we opened in 2009. Crepe
Right.
Cellar
Yep.
opened then, and it was the recession.
Yep.
Try asking people for money
Yeah.
for a restaurant.
Yeah. Well, we tried in 2012,
Right.
which was not
Not
far.
much.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we weren't quite
Yeah.
there yet either.
No, yes, now it's a lot easier to get all of that worked up and get
Yeah.
money to go forward. But boy, that first part, it was like,
Yeah. Well, and you also don't have a track record, right?
Right.
It's like we
Exactly. No.
like I've been
We
trying.
weren't chefs.
Yeah, I've been trying to
Believe
open a
it.
restaurant since I moved to Charlotte in 2002. So I moved here right after 9/11. That was like my introduction to the market here. I was like, I gotta go. I was in New York. I was like,
Yeah.
out of here. And so like I got down here and I was like with my best friend who was culinary school chef buddy, and I was like, let's do our own place. Like let's do something small, chefy, like whatever. And we had no money. I mean, I was a line cook. I was a sous chef in New York. Like I had no cash. Like I think I had like $100 in my pocket. I was like, all right, I'm screwed. Sleeping on my buddy's couch,
Yep.
So we couldn't get money and fell into just like rebuilding my reputation and all that stuff here because nobody,
Yeah, right. You were in.
You are.
Yeah. So you got to start over.
so we had to start over. And coming up, like nobody wanted to invest.
Oh
like,
yeah.
to
Oh yeah.
open anything. Like nobody wanted to give you a shot. Nobody wanted to like trust.
Yeah.
How did you make it happen?
My business partners found me. So I was working at the time. I was working for Bruce Moffett at Barrington's. So I'd been with him for about 3 years, running Barrington's as he had just opened. He was opening Good Food.
Good Food.
Yeah. So he hired me to come in and kind of do the Barrington's thing. So I was running that restaurant for about 3 years, and Bruce and I had been talking about maybe doing something. I had been talking to him about doing it. I was like, hey, Bruce, open me a restaurant. Like, let's do this together. And he was like, like, that's not his model. He's like, no.
Right.
He's got a very specific model. And so that wasn't happening. One of my business partners I knew from the neighborhood. He was a designer, nightclub guy or whatever. We kind of been out drinking together, that kind of thing. We both rode motorcycles, that kind of thing. And so Patrick and Alejandro had the idea to do something on their own. They were running Butter Nightclub.
Okay.
And so they were like, why not us? Right? Like, we're here running all these businesses for these people, making them a ton of money. And there's no benefits for us. There's no ownership for us.
Right.
There's
the upside of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they kind of sourced me out and were like, hey, would you ever want to do something? And I was like, bing.
Boy,
Like,
that's
I'm like, what are you talking about?
I want to do. Yeah.
I was like, you want to run a restaurant for you? I was like, fuck that. And they're like, no, why not us? Like, why don't you be a partner? Like, what kind of food do you want to do? What do you want? Like, because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Pat and Alejandro had no experience in restaurants.
Okay.
You know, they didn't have really a vision for what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to do a hospitality thing, and they wanted to run it. They wanted to control it. They wanted to be able to tell the story. And so, you know, when we just kind of talked it out. I did a tasting for them, and I was like, this is my vision for what I would do. Right? This is my cooking voice. And they were like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So
I like it.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, though, that it worked out like that, because a lot of times, you know, and I know we struggle with this too, you know, they've built a lot of their brand equity around you, and I know you're an owner of it, so it's perfectly fine, but this has worked out really well for all of you.
Yes.
I think it's hard
to
find.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was like, you know, early on, so I got sweat equity, right? Was like my way to ownership, because I was never going to have any money. I tell everybody that, like, I love and hate this fact, but like, so my salary when we opened as the executive chef owner was $55,000 a year.
And then the rest was your sweat equity.
Was sweat equity into the business, right? So I took
that's what the dishwashers get paid now.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Almost.
So my dishwashers are making close to that right now, which is amazing, and I'm super proud of that.
It's awesome. If you have overtime, easy. Yeah, it's great.
You know, and then it vested over time, and so there was a very structured way for me to earn into ownership, which was great because it gave me goals. It gave me, like, I was never going to have the money to do it, getting paid that, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
And we had to pay ourselves like that because we were starting a new business with no money, and you're like, we just need to make sure this thing goes, right? This is the future, and so, you know, that has been such an important part of our mantra, right? Is like, why not us? There's only we, right? Like, without them, this thing doesn't go.
And
right? If it's just me in the kitchen, this thing doesn't go.
What cool job you did in a spot that historically was failing and turned over, and you just brought so much energy and professionalism to this part of downtown.
Yeah.
And spurred on.
But you guys do a lot of that same thing, right? Like, so one of the exciting things for us is to find an undervalued piece of the market, right? And we now we have more money, so we can do like some historical stuff too. We like historical buildings, as I noticed you guys do too.
I know.
Interesting. So, like, what is it about that?
I think probably the biggest thing is that you walk in the door, that there's already character there.
Right.
There, you don't have to like pretend or put something up on the wall.
It's not a facade.
Already there.
Yeah.
There's a story to lean into, and
sense of place already driven into the restaurant. It's great. And I think besides the fun and the curating, the developing, one of the things I wanted to do was, you know, kind of be in like city development and like improve. We love Charlotte and just make it, this is our home, and improve the city. And I think we're able to do that by starting restaurants in these neighborhoods and being a part of the neighborhood. That brings us tons of joy and lots of friends. And it's really, really cool. That's a big part of, I think, of our company culture and what we're trying to do. And the funny thing was, I listened to a podcast with Michael Simon, the Iron Chef from Cleveland, and he said, you know, the problem with restaurateurs is we only can scrounge enough money to open the restaurant.
Right.
And he said, I would be a billionaire if I actually could own the space, own the restaurant, and buy a little bit of land around where, because he is transformational for the city of Cleveland.
Yep.
He's gone into these underserved places, and then it's like the hippest part of town.
Neighborhoods blow up around those concepts.
And you're like, that kind of work is amazing. And I think, we do it in a much smaller sense of, but it's pretty cool to watch these neighborhoods and stuff grow, watch Charlotte grow.
Totally. I love that. And it speaks to kind of the ethos of what restaurants are about, right? Like restaurants are to restore, right? To take care of people, to whatever. So to restore a neighborhood, restore a whatever, and bring life back to maybe an area that, needs it. I think it's super important. Do you guys start there? How do you start the process, right? Like where does this, like, is it like, you know what? I need to have a pasta shop. Like, I love me some pasta.
Honestly, like, we never start with the concept.
Okay.
We start with what is the building, where is the place. So
you find the spot, like the spot speaks to you.
and then we figure out what to put in that spot. So with this new project that we're working on, which is in the former Bonterra building.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So Bonterra had been operating there in Dilworth for 22 years.
Yeah.
They just closed up last year in December. John Duncan has moved the concept out to Phillips Place, and they just reopened a couple weeks ago. But we are going into that building. It's a 1915 church, super old for Charlotte.
Yep.
We've got a few 1800s churches around in Uptown, but that's a very old one there. And really, we had no idea this was even going to possibly cross our radar. And there were some strange fortuitous events that happened, and eventually there it was in our lap, and we're like, we have to take this project.
Yeah.
We were in the middle
of
building out
happens.
Right?
I hate it when that happens. You're like, oh,
this is amazing. But yet you have to do something because
it's horrifying when it happens, but it's like such a blessing when you take the risk and you're like, all right,
we had just opened, Supperland had opened a year before, and then we just switched Crepe Cellar over to Everondelos. We're in the middle of that, and then bam, here's this gift.
Yep.
Here's another one. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
So shuffling a lot of.
My buddy sent me a picture the other day, and it was 3 years prior to Supperland opening, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm sitting in this building trying to figure out what we're gonna do."
Yeah.
And it was me sitting on and he came. He was like, "I'm in the neighborhood. I'll go stop by."
Yeah.
And check it out. So he comes in there, and I'm sitting in the middle of this demoed old church, just a complete disaster. There's just dust everywhere, and like terrible. And I have my folding chair just sitting, and I'm just. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I've just been sitting here for about 2 hours."
It's going to come to me eventually. If I sit here long enough.
Yeah.
The Buddha did it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It might take me 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's awesome. So why a steakhouse? Why Southern Steakhouse? How did that?
I think a lot of the stuff that we do, you can kind of see our life journey together, where you see in Haberdish where I had a conversation with Jamie. I was like, we've been here for 20 years. And she's like, no, we haven't. I was like, we started Davidson, 20 years ago. We've been in this part of.
That might be a Jamie thing, because I do the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Time passes very
She's like,
quickly.
we've been together for longer than I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I feel like we just started dating.
Yeah, so we then set out to kind of really explore Charlotte cuisine. So we, started, going to Gastonia and Mount Airy and really figuring out, well, what influence do we have from the Piedmont? What do we have from Appalachia? What do we have from the Low Country? And how has the travel routes really affected, what's been brought here? And so did all this research, and we're like, okay, so we're going to do a Southern place, and ended up loving, fried chicken and kind of basing it on that. But a lot of the backbone of all the stuff in there is like art, just traveling around and being like, this is where we live now and have a house and children, and this is our sense of place. And then even as recently as Everondelo, that was during the pandemic, we got Italian citizenship for myself and for my kids. So, now I have 2 passports and all this stuff. So tracing back to my homeland and the town that my family's from, and kind of really integrating that in, investigating that harder, and then you see a restaurant pops up, and then I think, and then I think Supperland was a lot of me having a midlife crisis and wanting
a grill.
A lot
He
of
just
a
wanted
lot
a
of
grill.
people. Yeah, you probably get a
Literally.
motorcycle or whatever.
He's not allowed to have a
Mine
motorcycle.
was a sailboat.
Yeah.
I just
Yours
bought a
was a
sailboat.
sailboat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
fine.
yeah,
Feels fine.
and so
So he wanted a 14-foot grill.
I got a 14-foot, 6-figure grill.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Better grill some stuff.
Exactly.
When you spend that
And
much money on a grill, you
Right.
right. start grilling some
And
stuff.
so it's an awesome midlife crisis because
Yeah.
now it pays the bills,
Yeah.
and the investors paid for it too.
Yeah.
So it's just a wonderful synergy there.
So,
But I think
is that the focal point of the cuisine there at Supperland? Is it the grill?
We say Southern Steakhouse meets church potluck, and that's the whole idea of the grounding something in its space
Right.
itself. And I think one of the things that it can be to a detriment or can be very positive is that we don't have a restaurant background, which means we don't look at things the same way. And I think sometimes that can really help. Just like you might look at media totally differently than somebody else might,
Right.
And so not being afraid to be like, yeah, let's do something different. Let's look at this cuisine of church potlucks, which seems so pedestrian and fairly lame. But there is so much beauty, nostalgia, incredible flavor components, interesting ingredients that come from these dishes that did come from our childhood, or that we did remember, or that we've seen here in the South. But Supperland, more than anything, is a reinvention of what a steakhouse is in our minds. I think steakhouses have always been like this old boys club, or at least in our minds. And it's dark. It's very classic menu and all that.
Right.
And so, how can we take that and create it into a space that's welcoming to all, and that you can wear whatever you want to go there? You see women in gowns. You see people in t-shirts. Reinventing the idea of hospitality in a steakhouse where there's gigantic windows and the walls are very unique. You've got dropped chandeliers, and just creating an environment that is maybe flips the steakhouse idea on its head.
Yeah.
I think you're selling them. We might actually get them to come.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go. Well, I was going to hit you guys up. I was actually...
He just wanted a reservation.
No. I was...
dang.
I owe them a
This is
few.
low.
So.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to ask you guys because I do want to go. I might want to go tonight.
Okay.
Because you just saw, because you're really good at what you do, and I'm sold. Yeah, I need to check this out. No, because I actually did that. I did an episode with Brian Baxter in Nashville. He's the chef at Catbird Seat, and I'd never eaten his food. We just got together. I met him at a chef thing. We did a chef event together, and I was like, I dig this guy. I like his focus and like what he's about, but I don't know anything about him. So I interviewed him. Because I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to pick his brain and find out what
he's about.
Yeah, what this guy's
I like
about. And we hit it off, and I was into his story and like his food kind of theory. And I was like, man, I gotta eat your food. Because we did this event together, but we were working together. I didn't
And
taste...
even event food's not really.
Yeah, it's not you're collaborating.
Thing.
It's not really your thing.
Yeah.
And so I went to Catbird Seat, man, and like my perspective after getting to talk to him, like I really got it. Right, like it was like profound, and it was a taste.
This is what you're trying to do.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, my mind was like kind of frazzled. His food is very particular and everything's specific. But having the conversation and having it kind of fresh in my mind, and then eating through the tasting menu, I was like, okay,
I get it.
Yeah, I had like one of those I got it moments, and it was really cool. So I was like, oh, and it helped me kind of do like an intro to the podcast because I was like, okay. This is what you guys should get from this, right?
Yeah.
Because I just had this whole experience,
Yeah.
right? And I can tell you kind of how it went for me, and that was a lot of fun.
That's neat. Well, just text us.
All right, I'll hit you up. So now you have another church spot.
Church.
It's so weird.
now-
We're both
Yeah. How
channeling
many
churches.
churches
I know.
can
You're
can
channeling
you
churches
have?
too.
Now
Yeah.
we're gonna have to. You guys are one-upping me. All right, fine. Well, I've got an 1800s hotel as my next.
I love it.
Yeah, in Denver. That's pretty dope.
That's pretty
It's
awesome.
gonna be fun. You're gonna do the restaurant concept.
We're
for
doing
the
the
hotel?
restaurant
Okay.
concept. It's not a hotel anymore. It's now like a little office building.
Okay.
But the corner spot that we got is on the ground and basement, and it's I can't remember what year, but it's like 70 maybe or something.
So
It's
cool.
an old
That's
building. Yeah, it's
insane.
like gold rush times.
Yes, I was
Love
gonna
it.
say that's
Super
early
cool.
out
Yeah.
west.
And so you can. I'm much the way you guys are, where it's like, okay, we're in this spot now. Now, like my gears are starting to go. Like, okay, what's going on in Gold Rush era?
You're going to have some bison on that menu.
We're gonna have some bison, 100%. Like, there's no way.
100%.
I mean, my idea for the name of the restaurant was to call it Buffalo Nickel.
Oh, cute.
I was like, let's call this place Buffalo Nickel, but we're actually gonna do it at Church Indian.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
But it's gonna be Church Indian.
Yeah.
But they can do their own spin-off thing.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do like an American tavern. You know, like an old tavern, but like all super American, but done like chefed out.
Yeah.
No pretentious stuff, just like
that's kind of neat.
Really well done American.
People would love that.
Yeah, especially
People
out
would
there. I
love
think it would be cool.
Yeah.
So we're filing that one away for the right spot. Like we got to find the spot where it's going to fit.
Yeah. The old buildings are it's just such the way to go.
They're so cool, man. They
so
speak
hard.
to you.
So much more work.
Is a lot more difficult.
And
but
the
it's
maintenance. Like, man,
yeah.
like the church in Charleston, it's just like, it's never ending.
Yeah. Oh,
Every time it's a high tide, we're like, all right, we've got issues. We got issues.
Hurricane.
Yeah, we got a hurricane, a high tide, too much wind, and there's like something happening.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We get that.
You guys can relate?
We can relate.
So where are your thoughts on the new church thing? You're not going to do a Supperland too, are you?
No, we're
Are
working
you there yet?
on.
You're not there
No,
yet?
we're pretty close. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I called you about. We're starting to do some R&D for, and I'll let our chief marketing
Are you
officer.
able to discuss?
Yeah.
At this stage?
So very generally, we've told people it's steak and surf. Okay, so but and what I think is so beautiful about that umbrella concept is that you can go a lot of directions with it. We want the service style and the ambiance to very much feel like Supperland. It's Supperland style of dining. We do this also at Ever Andalo and Haberdish is family style. So it's really unique. I think a lot of places you order your food and you get it on a plate.
Right.
We in our concepts really love family style dining because there's a number of things, but we like people's bellies to be full at the end of the night. So for us, like the tapas small plates doesn't work quite as well for the concepts we've had so far anyway. We also like that when people are dining, they are sharing at the table, and it creates a lot of community at the table. So you're sharing a meal instead of just being at the table around and enjoying your own separate experiences.
Right.
It allows everybody kind of congregate together. And we see that across all our places, and we'll do that over at Alleluia Hall as well.
There it is.
It's called Alleluia Hall. It's a play off the word Alleluia or Hallelujah.
Yeah.
So Alleluia Hall is a steak and surf concept, and Jeff and our executive chef Chris Roginski at Supperland are just in the throes of brainstorming
Figuring
and
it out.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
And we've got some buckets in there. We know like there's the steak component, and as far as the surf, we know there's going to be a raw bar component, and how to build from there.
Yeah, we also are kind of like, so we have this overarching thing, but we can make it whatever we want. So
it's magical.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. But at Supperland, the fire grill is such a big part of the ambiance and what's going on in that space, and it like reaches out to you. You feel the heat, depending on where you're sitting in there. And we wanted to have equally, we couldn't put that in, and nor would we want to do the same exact thing. But there's just a cool little spot to kind of have a raw bar, like popping stuff out to go, along with it. So we kind of just embraced it, having that energy in the dining room. We thought would be really fun. So we're kind of, a little juxtaposition of the fire and ice at the two places. And visually too, it's just going to be a lot more refined. We're very much on this kind of pre-Art Deco, right as Art Deco was emerging, kind of time frame with all our decor and what's going on over there. And you go in Supperland and the walls are raw. So we actually just left them.
Yeah.
And so they're, it's just dusty, looking walls. And we'll have a lot of very refined molding and curves and really hard to do kind of pieces all around.
But I'm sure you find, like in these old spaces, one of the biggest treasures when you walk in the door is seeing what needs to just stay just the way
Yeah,
it is.
totally.
And it's finding those pieces that then I think really allow the decor to come together. And at Supperland, the first time we walked in that door, I whispered to him, "Don't touch it." And I was talking about don't touch the walls.
Yeah,
Let's
just
leave
leave
them
them.
because they're so beautiful just as they are. And it's the same thing with this building. It has more scars, having been from 1915 as opposed to the Supperland building in 1950. So it's different. This one has like this gigantic mezzanine that reaches out, that adds its share of quirks. But it's seeing what is beautiful, what needs to stay, and then what can we cover over that that has kind of been scarred over these years. But
Right on. I can't wait to see it. All right, cool. So that's exciting about, what's the name of the spot?
Leluya Hall.
Leluya Hall.
And you nailed it on the first try.
We did. We
Yeah,
get it all over the
Leluya.
place. Leluya Hall.
When is your projected...
Why you know better than
I
ask
know.
that question?
Well, because,
but,
because if you put a time frame to it, you'll get her done.
right,
Right? You're like...
I would say
you're not going to hit it.
I'm interested.
no, we're not gonna hit it. But I would say we're probably 9 to 10 months out right now.
Okay.
With
I
it.
always give people a quarter. I'm like, we're shooting for Q4
Well,
next
you were
year.
springing for we were shooting for the end of spring next year. We're into summer next year right now.
Okay.
But once really, we've just been super delayed getting our plans in, and we've been doing more planning than normal and getting everything super dialed in. But we've already started ordering the long wait time stuff.
Okay. So you
which
guys
is good.
are
So
getting
once
there.
we start the construction, electrical is going to be pretty difficult, but the rest of the stuff's going to go pretty quick.
Are you guys pretty much taking it down?
Yeah.
You're gutting it out. It needs...
Yes, we're
Because,
gutting,
We'll
rearranging.
keep that, the mezzanine will stay, but
Right.
all of it kind of needs to change up. And then the ceiling, it's been a drop ceiling.
Okay.
So we're going to take that out. One of the most beautiful elements of that space
Yeah.
are the trusses in the ceiling. I mean,
I love that about...
they're so
about
beautiful.
our Charleston store.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
Super tall, and you'll see that when you walk in the front door of Supperland. You walk in and you're just like greeted with this like it's
Huge,
ethereal. You have
open.
this like sense like you're just like something's bigger than I am.
I love that.
And it's the ceiling. Yeah.
Yep.
it's the ceiling.
And the grill.
Yeah.
And the grill
And the
was just bigger than you are.
And the grill. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I guess you have to, you got to start over when you're going into a space that has been around for 2 decades.
Yes.
And has been a staple wine and food, establishment in town. Like you got to kind of start over, right?
We got a few things going on there. One, restaurants have changed so much in the last 20 years. As you go to redo your place, we realized redoing Crepe Cellar and Avrondolo is when we opened Crepe Cellar, craft beer wasn't even a thing yet. And we evolved by bringing the taps from growlers, over there and letting craft beer kind of be there. But when we opened it was you sell some Amstel and some Guinness and whatever, and you were and some Stella, and you were cool. And then craft cocktails, weren't even a thing. We had bartenders that in training didn't know the difference between seltzer water and tonic water, and you're doing all that training, and now it's like, oh, you want me to centrifuge no problem. And
they have like all these this gear behind the
Yeah,
bar.
exactly.
Like, what does that do? Is
Yeah.
that a time machine that you're working on there?
Exactly, they got their molecular kit.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with that, and then you deal with, look at how Charlotte's changed, and even how it's changing in the next year or two over there. We're gonna have 30, 40-story buildings across the street.
Wow.
With hundreds and hundreds of tenants, and so it's going to be crazy. So we're really trying to move the entrance kind of facing more South Boulevard, get it away from the side entrance of the parking lot, and kind of reconnect with the south end.
Yeah, give
over
it
there.
a face to the street kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think we looked at that space as it's in the heart of Dilworth.
Yeah.
And really, it's 1 block off of South Boulevard and
Across
1
the
block
street
off
is
of
South
East Boulevard.
End.
Yeah.
So it's right in the mix of everything, but it just never had that feel. And we still want it to be a neighborhood place, but just kind of bringing some more of that energy of the South End over there, I think will help.
Yes, it will be wild. In 2 years' time, catty corner from us is a 30-story building.
Wow. That's fun.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
I think it's fun. I think some people are very afraid of the the challenges that come. But we're in a gorgeous growing city.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
Right. No. I mean, the thing is, like, you have to embrace change, right? Like, Charlotte's not going to stay a small town forever. Like, it's a city, and it needs to be, because
Right. Yeah.
like we need business, we need people, we need, like, in order for everything to grow and be healthy, like, you need to have that influx of new ideas, new people, new,
How is it with the juxtaposition of your two places? So you got
Yep.
Charleston, which is a super small city, but has this crazy amount of tourists, and then you have here, which is 10 times bigger as a city, or 5 times, whatever it is, as a city, but then we have no tourists,
Yep.
like very, very slim,
Yeah.
in that juxtaposition. Because I was talking to her twin sister about this, of they can't get restaurant reservations in Charleston. As a local, it's very difficult just to walk and go out to dinner.
Yeah. It's tough. Well, to answer her question about the reservations, make your reservations at 5:00. You can get a table anywhere
Right.
at 5
At
o'clock.
5.
I can get a table today at Per Se in New York at 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock. Yeah.
If you're willing
That's
to
the
eat.
same thing. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I like to tell people that, because people are like, oh, it's so hard to get in. I'm like, well, stop trying to eat at 7:30 with everybody else.
We're going to La Bernardine in a few weeks at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, right. And because you want to, but but you guys are going to be some of the only people in there. You're going to get great service.
We'll be the first ones in the door.
You guys will have a whole team of servers and captains working on you.
Yeah.
I love it.
But so that's the secret there, right? Is just change the time that you're willing to eat. You get a reservation. But you're right. Like, we get packed out down there, and the difference speaks to having the concepts be slightly different, right? Like, our menus are totally different. Our menu here is geared towards the clientele that we're used to having, right?
Okay.
It's a little more conservative environment here.
Yeah.
Even though our restaurant is not. I mean, we've got three steaks on our menu. Like 3 beef steak options.
Right.
A couple of fish, and then like some other cool crafty stuff. In Charleston, it's totally different. We have a lot more seafood. We've got and I think that's how we kind of play with that. We kind of figure out what is the environment that we're in, and how is what we're doing going to fit into that.
Yep.
And that's how we address it. But it's completely different.
Two totally different cultures.
Yeah. I mean, and you can feel it. Like, the Charlotte Church and Union is like, it's a juggernaut. Like, I go in there and it's like, it's just, the energy is so high all day. Like, lunch, brunch, dinner. It's just like go, go, go all the time. And so we have to have a ton of staff, right? Because we need to like change. You have to change. There's no like, you don't do doubles. Like, people can't. You'll die if you do a double.
Right.
There, right? Like, you just run out of gas.
Yeah.
So like, you have to have shift changes. You have to have a lot of staff. You have to have, like, to keep the energy up.
Yeah.
Right. To keep up with all the people, because they're constantly coming through. And here it's a little more controlled. We have some open tables for walk-ins. We have, it's a little bit of a slower environment. So, you just kind of roll with it.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Like the question.
The question.
What
the
is
question
it?
that was going to change everything.
What was
No. We've enjoyed going down to Tempest. We went down a while back, but he just went down there, and it's especially as we work to open a new place that's steak and surf, just really trying to get into the seafood thing. And what you guys have done down there is just, it's awesome. It's such a great little spot, and
I'm super proud of it. I love that concept because it was one of those organic things, right? Like, me and my partners were like, the space was becoming available next to Church and Union.
Okay.
And we love the market. A lot of business owners down there are like, oh, the market's like, tourist, it's like whatever. I'm like, but that's the history of Charleston is there.
Yeah.
Like, all these people are moving up to King Street or out to these like neighborhoods, and that's all fine and great. But like, everything that Charleston, why it exists, happened at that corner.
Right.
Right? Like, the corner where we're at. It's where it was
that's
all going down.
That's where,
Like, for all of colonial United States was happening around that area.
And those are my first memories of Charleston, being a northerner,
Yeah.
coming down here and going to Charleston, like, you know, walking with the tennis team and coaches, like, so this is the market, and you're like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
And and it's just like hits you in the face, and you're
Right.
like, yeah, this is, you know,
Cobblestone streets, like everything, like you can almost see the history there, right? So I love being down there.
Yeah.
Like when we first opened Tempest, there was a little bit of a shift. Like a lot of places were closing on the market, like restaurants, and moving and just closing down. Other places were opening up on King Street or whatever. But our thought process there is that it's all going to come back. Right, like it's like a trend. Like everybody's like, "Oh, this is the cool spot. Like let's open bars."
Well,
over
especially
here.
when you open 2 cool restaurants down, like right next door to each other. Of course, it's going to come back.
And that was part of our plan. Is like, do we want to invest in this corner, or do we want to open another restaurant 3 or 4 blocks from here in another neighborhood?
Yeah.
Of course, we want to invest in our neighborhood. Like, let's put another cool spot here to bring the people.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, aren't you going to cannibalize your own business? I'm like, no.
That's exactly what people would say to us about Noda.
Right.
We have 4 places in Noda.
Yeah.
And people are always like what?
Within
Another one?
100
What are
yards
you
of
doing?
each other almost, right? Like they're all...
They're
Almost
all right
all
there,
next to
they're on
each
the same
other, right?
block.
Yeah.
They're on the same block. But it's that same approach. You know, Danny Myers took that same approach up in New York too. It's you go in and then you go all in and you go all in, and all
It's
of
a
a
critical
sudden
mass.
exactly
There's people there.
There are people there, and then it's safer for employees. It's a better fit when somebody comes out to dinner. They have options when they come, and people want to come back, and they start thinking of it as an area to go to.
Yep.
I
We
think that's
100%
smart
were
what you
down
did.
with that. And so the way we came up with it, we're like, okay, cool. So we're all in on this building because we also love the church, you know. So we're in Tempest is actually in the boarding house, right? So that was the boarding house for sailors, for the merchant marines. And then Church and Union is in the
church.
in the actual church.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we were like, oh, how awesome is that connection, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's do this. What's the concept? And my partners asked me, they're like, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do? Like, what kind of food do you want to do?
Yeah.
And being in Charleston, you know, I'm like, well, we have to do seafood, right? Like there's a market here that I didn't feel was being tapped into. You know, you go to raw bars and there's oysters from Washington and Prince Edward Island and whatever. And I was like, but we're in like, look around you, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this
Right
massive
here.
fishing thing going on. And so, you know, and there's like, you know, there's halibut from Alaska on menus. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
The whole sustainable part of my ethos was like, we need to tap into this market.
Right.
And so I wanted to do a seafood restaurant. Great. So we started off there. And then it led to like, well, how are we going to be different? Right? Like, how are we going to do something that hasn't been done or that isn't everywhere?
Yes.
And so I thought about like those clam bakes and the, you know, that you would go to, or like the oyster roasts. I'm like, well, how do we do this, but inside of our restaurant?
Yeah.
And that's when we found that charcoal oven, the Mi Brasa oven, which is that piece of gear is like
Love it.
no joke. I mean, it's hot. It cooks with coal, so it's like it's a more subtle smoke than wood.
Okay.
So it works great for seafood and shellfish. And I was like, so we'll do like a clam bake in our restaurant, you know, using all stuff locally. And that's kind of how we jumped off from there. So I love that place. That's so much fun.
Yeah, it is so much fun. And I wanted to ask you too about like, you've always been really into the sourcing and the farming of products. Is that something that's still very much part of what you do? And I'm also curious about like, if the relationships between farmers and restaurants are changing, or if you see anything there that feels different.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different. So it's a little different now. I'm still super into it. You know, I think I try to teach that to my chefs. So that's a lot of what I'm doing now, is like that connection to your community through the food and the agriculture is so important for the health of everything, right? That's sustainability, right? Taking care of the farmers who are growing the food helps to, you know, strengthen the community. Those people need, you know, and not only that, the food is better. Fresh food
For sure.
tastes better because it's healthier. And I think there's something there. And I've talked about this before, and I'm convinced that healthy food that's nutritious tastes better. There's a connection between
I like this. This feels good. It's good
Yeah,
for me.
and your brain like reacts differently
Like,
to food
your
that
brain
nourishes
knows.
it,
Yeah.
right? because when I started like really diving into the whole, chef, farm to table, all that sustainability, and started eating that way and like sourcing that way, my approach to food changed. I think my health changed. Everything started to kind of change. So I'm super all in on it. I mean, we opened a farm, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I started farming.
So
Yes.
are you still doing the farm?
No. So we sold the
Okay.
farm. We sold the farm in December of, I think it was 2020. So as a result of the pandemic, we closed all the restaurants. My restaurants were the main purchaser of our products.
Okay.
So we were growing for the restaurants. We would drive down to Charleston once a week and drop off just like crates of stuff.
Yeah.
And the great thing about that
How
was
many
that
acres did you have?
we had 6 acres, but we were growing on about a half acre of it, vegetables. Okay. And then we had about another acre with chickens and we had like a laying flock and stuff.
Yeah.
So we were kind of trying to do the whole sustainable thing there. We learned so much about the products, the seasons, like just, I mean, it opened up a whole whole Pandora's box of stuff where I'm just
that's a whole nother industry.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally. And I'm still super interested in it. And we will get back to growing on some level, but it won't be like quite like that. So the problem there was that when we closed the pandemic, we had nowhere to sell the products. Mm-hmm. And so, the mortgage and everything on the land, we were like, people were just itching for land.
Right.
And we had 6 acres and like 30 minutes from Charlotte, and
perfect.
We're like, okay, cash rich or restaurant
and
rich,
also,
cash poor.
You're also like, we have a pandemic.
So all of our restaurants are closed. I have no cash.
Yeah.
Like all my cash is tied up in these restaurants.
It's amazing when you're not open how fast the cash. Because I thought we were in a good financial position. Like when the pandemic was coming, and I kind of had an idea. I think a few weeks earlier than a lot of other people. I was bracing for it and trying to hold on to cash, and then it was like, I thought this would last.
Yeah,
but when
we suffered from that too.
When you're paying people and you don't have any revenue coming in,
it goes so fast.
Totally.
And Corey and I we didn't have any cash to begin with. Like everything, like all of ours is in cash flow. It's all in flow from the restaurants. Mm-hmm. So when that stopped, we were like, And the thing that really scared me was...
We put ourselves on unemployment. We fired ourselves.
Did you?
For a while.
Oh,
did you?
We fired ourselves.
Yeah, we just stopped paying ourselves. I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. Just stop.
What do you
Stop.
do?
Yeah, I was like, just stop paying ourselves. I don't know. We actually ended up all moving in together. So all of our so me, Patrick, and Alejandro, and our we rented a house on Isle of Palm because all the vacation market dried up because everybody was terrified.
Yeah.
So we got a year lease on like a
5-bed. Moved in together.
We just all moved in and we're like, let's hunker down.
Were you cooking for everybody every day?
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I was cooking for them.
That's a good deal for them.
Yeah, I was like, you guys shop and I'll just keep us living.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so
they did better than us. I was the one who was cooking. It wasn't as much of a treat as if you were cooking.
I don't cook at home anymore. I'm like, I'm done with that.
I did that.
Yeah. That was fun. But so we sold the property. To have just like a little, we didn't know if you guys probably did this too. You're like, is this it? Are we done?
Is this it?
Yeah.
Do we start over? How do we start over?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we sold the farm to kind of get that little chunk of money to whatever. Like, do we need it to reopen? Do we need it for whatever? So that's what happened to the farm.
Yeah.
But we'll get back to it.
What a great experience.
So. It was so we were out there. I think for 3 years. The first year was just kind of like figuring out like how we'll do everything. Sammy Koenigsberg from Newtown Farm, who was like our farm mentor, came out and really helped lay out like how we would set it up. What equipment do you need? How do we do what we do? And we grew for 2 seasons out there, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. And the coolest part was that the inspiration that it fed to the team by just like showing up, and our stuff was like nice. I'll give myself a little back. Like I took a lot of pride. Like I didn't bunch things that weren't like nice.
Yeah.
I pull out a bunch of carrots. I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to cook with that. Yeah. And if it wasn't, they went to the chickens. I was like, nah. If it's blemished, like anything that was blemished or not, like so my chefs were getting like pristine, like beautiful stuff to work with, and they had no say in it. I just roll in and be like,
this
boom.
Is what you're making.
Yeah, I'd be like, here you go. What you gonna do? And they're like, and they would just like, it'd be like Christmas. They'd start digging through the bins looking for what's in there.
That's
a lot
so
of
cool.
fun.
That is fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
And it does give you so much more appreciation for the food. The idea of pulling it out of the ground,
Yeah.
and you have this thing, like, don't ruin it.
Right. 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
And
I
that's
think-
so much my approach now is like, a lot of the younger chefs are a lot more creative. It goes with the whole like molecular gastronomy thing.
Yeah.
Like people are just, they're really
So many
dissecting layers of cuisine these days that I mean, that's so far beyond me. I can't even, I'm like, what? I don't know how that works. So my cooking has taken a shift more towards simplicity, which is really hard. Like it's hard to make things amazing
With
when you're
three
not
ingredients.
hiding behind
So this is
the stuff, right?
This is my
It
whole.
goes to your whole thing about your service.
Well, this is the whole thing now with our kitchen team that I've kind of been preaching on, is we've gotten to the point that we have a lot of really good cooks and they can cook you a great meal, but and everybody can salt things correctly and do those things, but I'm just done with the putting hot sauce and bacon and all these like big flavors and stuff,
Right.
instead of delicately building the flavors layer by layer and building the stuff up and having finesse and keeping things simple. And that's what Everandolo, there's so many dishes over there. It's a pure Italian. There's 2-3 ingredients and that's it in the dish. And
I love
so
that.
yeah, it's great, and it's actually really, really hard.
Yes,
You
it's
have
hard to cook that way.
It's really hard. It's really hard to. It's not that hard if you came over to the house and I'm just cooking for you.
Right. Yeah,
And
we're
it's just
having a meal together.
and we have a meal together, and the pasta water's salted perfectly, and
Yep.
you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, when you're
do it consistently
when you're
for
3 hours of a full dining room, and you're just dumping water in your pasta thing and and you're trying to keep up, it gets really hard.
Yeah. Do you guys have a pasta cooker over there?
Yeah, and they keep breaking. It's
Really?
really frustrating. But,
Yeah, that's a tough one.
we
You're like
had-
our main piece of equipment. You just
We
die.
do.
So last week we had reservations for the family at 5
Yeah.
to go over to Everandolo, and we were gonna eat dinner. And at noon the pasta cooker had broken, and we next dayed it.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be there, and then we got notice that it wasn't.
Was
gonna
like
make
a
it.
held up somewhere. You're like,
It wasn't gonna make it.
Yeah, fill up the pots.
So,
Like, here
so
we
I was
go.
like, so we got induction, set up,
Yeah.
and they're making do. And
Yeah.
I'm like, Jamie, we can't come in. Like, we can't
Yeah.
start their night off with the
Yeah.
5 of us,
No way.
eating.
Yeah.
And I know my kids would just be like, pasta, please. So skipped out on that. And then the next night, so we're like, okay, we'll leave them be for the weekend. So
Yeah.
we're like, we'll go to Supperland at 5. 3 o'clock, they started the fire too fast in the wood fire grill, and the Ansel system goes off.
Oh, no.
And with the wood, it's a lot better than the foam.
Okay.
It's just water and
Okay.
the
Oh,
stuff
in that particular Ansel.
in
it's
that
just,
one. It's
okay,
just
a
water
separate
and
thing.
what they call surfactant, which
Okay.
is really soap.
Uh-huh.
So it's water and soap
Yep.
shooting down, but nobody knew how to turn it off. So we have just water, and then we have a kitchen downstairs. So we have all this water going, down, like
Through the-
just like down.
It's kind of funny now.
And so I go over there, and of course, everybody wants to close, and I'm like going through the list of what do we need to open, and we ended up fighting through. The wood guy was still in the neighborhood, so we were able to take all the wood that got wet that was underneath the grill out, and he traded it out with his truck.
Oh, nice.
And then he went and picked up another load to fill up
Fill
the
you
rest
up.
of the people. But
Wow.
so we were able to kind of fight through. But I was like, well, we can't eat here tonight.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
can't do that. That's so bad.
People are like, do you eat at your restaurants a lot? I was like, we try.
Yeah, we try to. It just depends on what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, we eat in our restaurants a lot, and I think a lot of that is about auditing and just making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, and we can give feedback, we can give whatever. We try to be easy. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
I'm not there to bust people's chops and
Yep.
And I try not to do it during the shift either.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more.
Early,
And
yeah.
all the chefs know. They're like, at the end of the night, they'll be like, how was your dinner? Or the next morning, they'll be like, hey, you got your notes from dinner last night?
Yeah, yeah, and we always send we have an audit thing, just a format that we do where we just kind of grade everything, and it's just hey, this is what we think, and then if there's clear notes hey, our seasoning's way off, we need to fix this. This
Right.
is not correct,
Yeah.
or whatever. We can address it without I'm not trying to get people all anxietied out and like.
No, I think that's probably one of the best things any one of us can do who are trying to lead a restaurant group is to step back and not be a micromanager and be there all the time, because then people have this feeling of walking on eggshells, and nobody can perform a service well feeling nervous.
Right.
So allowing our front of house staff and managers to run that place, and the kitchen too, run that place the best that they can. We have to audit, as you're saying, being there, checking in on it, but you have to let that go, and you have to trust that they're doing it, and give them feedback, but allowing them to shine and to grow, then you can move on to other things like opening up a restaurant out in Colorado.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yes, it will be.
It's going to be fun. A lot of meats.
And was there something about a pizza place?
Yeah, pizza is my jam right now. So we're doing Ophelia's. Ophelia's is going to open in Nashville sometime early next year.
Okay.
Maybe
What's
Q1?
the date? Could you give me the exact date?
I'm gonna say late Q1.
Okay.
Ish. Right.
Late Q1.
I love when you do like Q, like nobody knows what that is.
So first quarter sometimes. So we're in construction right now, which is good. The process of getting things passed was very slow and difficult, but we're ready to go. It is going to be. It's kind of like it's a pizza bar, is what we're calling it. So it's like a craft cocktail bar with like Neapolitan style pizza.
And so all in on the Neapolitan.
Yeah, I think my dough is that style, but I think I'm going to do a Roman style pizza feature every day.
Okay.
So we'll do like the sheet pan thick focaccia style pizza, and we'll have like it, because I kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Some people hate it. They're like, oh, it's too much bread. And I'm like, yeah, but to me, that's what the pizza is.
Yeah.
It's not about the topping.
Especially
it's
when
about the crust.
There's some oil underneath it.
Yeah, and it's like herby and like, oh man. So I think I'm going to do that. I don't know. We're flushing it out.
Okay, and you got your ovens picked out?
So our ovens got picked for us because we're in a high rise and we cannot have a hood.
Okay.
There's
but
no
you can
hood.
do direct vent.
We have a direct vent electric pizza oven.
Okay.
I think it's called Pizza Pro, I think.
Okay.
But it's a thin deck style oven with a built-in
So
scrubber.
we have a huge pizza oven at Supperland as well, but we don't cook pizza in it. We just use it as a
deck.
Because we had no electricity, no gas in the upstairs pretty kitchen. It's all just wood up there. So
Gotcha. Cool.
But
yeah, so that's the oven we're going to use by default because we just can't do anything else. But from what I'm reading and seeing about them, is they work very efficiently. Like they work good.
Yeah.
We won't get smokiness or any of that kind of live fire thing going on with it, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah.
And it's funny. We were going to do small plates there. We were going to do like just small kind of new American stuff. But as we started flushing out the concept, we're like, we still can't have a full hood. So like how much can we do? We're going to end up doing like a lot of raw like sashimi stuff and I'm like,
but you still need to prep all the other stuff somewhere to go with that.
Exactly. So the idea of like, what can we do in volume and can we do well without having a hood, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, pizza, we can do, the sky's the limit. Like once you get your dough figured out, you can go wherever you want to go with it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at now. So I got the dough figured out. Which I've been working on for about 4 months.
Okay.
Like, poor Corey is like, she's like, I don't want pizza anymore, please. Like, there's always dough like bubbling on the counter, or like there's stuff.
Did you ever look at the Nathan Myhrvold pizza? So after they did the modernist cuisine, they did the same kind of compendium on pizza. So it's four or five, but the $400, $500 set, 4 or 5 gigantic books, and it's just on pizza. So it's
I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Absolutely crazy.
I'll check in with you guys in like a month. I'm gonna dive in.
We could go halvesies on it.
Yeah, you don't have it?
I don't have it.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe we'll have to.
So, spending $400 on books is.
But I'm opening a pizza restaurant. I kind of have to. It's an expense, right? I can write it off. I'll write it off.
It's educational.
Yeah. So the dough's been a long process. I did want to do like a Napolitano style thing, but now I'm starting to. So Adam, right? He's been with me for a decade. He's my VP of culinary. So he's like the new chef in charge of things.
Yeah.
And we've been working on this concept for months, and the new chef's table came out on pizza.
Okay.
So have you guys heard of it?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't
Check
seen
it out. Okay.
Well,
So he's like, hey, chef, did you see the new chef's table? I'm like, what is it now? He's like, it's pizza. I'm like, God damn it. Oh, no. So I dive in, right? And like I consume that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm just like, oh, I can't stop watching it.
Now we know what we're doing tonight.
Yeah. So there you guys are set. There's only, I think, 8 episodes, so that's not too bad. That's only like 4
great,
hours
though.
or
That's
something.
great.
It'll take us 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so I started diving into that, and now it's like inspiring kind of some new ideas about where I want to go with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is like, do we want to be a traditional pizza shop? Or
Right.
do we want to kind of do what we do and be playful with it, have your staples that people know are there, right? Your pepperoni soppressata thing, and you've got your, artichoke and arugula thing, and then do we want to do like some wild stuff like hamachi crudo pizza?
Right.
Like,
Right up your
whoa,
alley.
right? Like I'm like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
This is about to get wild.
I think that is the only way for the industry to advance and for you to advance food in general is by
Right.
doing things differently and
Right.
doing something like that. Like nobody's expecting it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not even expecting it. I'm like, I don't even know if it'll work.
I don't know either.
But that's the
I don't
beauty
know
of it,
what I think
right?
about it.
It's like those ideas start, and you're like, all right, well, let's start. Like, we got to make some dough. Like, let's make some dough and start playing.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part for me, is the playing with your food.
I love
Yep.
it.
Like, let's figure it out.
Yep.
Which is what you guys are probably doing now.
We haven't gotten to the
play stage?
the making yet.
Okay.
I was just saying to him yesterday, you guys got to get some dates on the calendar to just start playing.
Yeah, we gotta start doing that. Chef just had surgery on his foot, so he's a little bit out from the cooking stuff. So he's in the eating phase, and not being able to walk is just not a good phase. But but he's at least we get him out.
Yeah,
And,
get him out, get the taste buds working hard.
Yeah, exactly. So we haven't quite gotten to the. I think we have some dishes, but we'll start running some specials, like kind of hidden throughout, even if it's just a garnish that we need and that kind of stuff, and start putting people on different projects.
I think I want to do a pop-up for Ophelia's. I think I want to like in each location, like I'll utilize the market here. We'll do like a pop-up at Church and Union and do like the Ophelia's.
If you want to use our grill at Supperland
Yeah,
on
I was
Monday
gonna
night.
say,
Really fun.
Monday night, if you want to cook some pizza over there,
Yeah.
I mean, even if
great-
you just want to
The
cook some
oven.
pizza, I'll come
Yeah,
over.
you're like, I like pizza.
I
Bring the kids.
like pizza.
Yeah,
I've been
totally.
working on a gluten-free for the kids. They've been
I'm
asking
gluten-free
for
and
it.
my
So
kids are gluten-free.
we got a
Yeah,
good.
we need to
good
talk
dough.
about that
Okay.
because that's got to be interesting to navigate.
Yeah.
Are you just
Oh, Jamie.
gluten-free?
No.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, you-
I remember when you
remember-
asked for allergies, and I
Yes.
was like, so.
Yeah, Jamie's not coming. That's why I was asking, because I remember that you had like a
I'm
very
embarrassed sometimes to go to places like, for instance, I have not been to Leah and Louise, and I feel so ashamed that I have not been there, and it's because I'm ashamed to go and have so many issues with my diet.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be that girl.
You don't want to be like, so I can basically only have like vegetables that aren't cooked in this, and like.
I've definitely been able to eat a lot more as time has gone on, but I got
that's good.
very sick about 4 years ago, and I changed my diet entirely, and am so grateful that I have found these very unique answers. There are a lot of fringe theories out there on how food can help us heal from a lot of different autoimmune disorders and diseases, and but yeah, I eat entirely grain-free and dairy-free, gluten-free.
She still manages,
And I
though.
don't eat
Sometimes
sugar.
when you see her plates that she makes for herself
Yeah.
at lunch
I mean,
or
they're
dinner,
gorgeous. I
like,
eat better than
she's
anybody. I
got,
swear
like,
to
this
you, anybody in this
amazing
country,
stuff.
I will give the award to me because I am meticulous about my food, and I make everything homemade. I cook so much at home, but it's all vegetables and meat, or vegetables and seafood.
Yeah.
And so I get to eat a lot because it's all vegetables.
Yeah.
But I love it. For me, for my body, it
Yeah.
has worked tremendously well. It goes with that theory of grain brain or bread head. If you read, those are 2 books that talk about it, just what grains are doing to our brains themselves physically. And not everybody. It doesn't impact everybody, but it impacts a lot of people. So, I think people who have autoimmune issues in their family, it's something to watch and be mindful of to stop things like MS or ADD, ADHD, or dementia, Alzheimer's, any of those.
A lot of simple things too, like eczema and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Get cleared up.
I mean, you are what you eat, right?
Like, what you eat.
I mean, it's and I like to eat that way, anyways. Like I'm a protein and vegetable guy. Like that's always been that's partly why I was so into doing the farm. I had always been a vegetable cook in New York. Like that was the station that was my intro into fine dining. Even though I was a saucier, I did all these other things and I trained in those stations, but like vegetables was always my thing.
That's your jam.
That's my jam. So like, awesome. I just enjoy that. I like to eat very simply, and it speaks to the whole healthiness of the food. It's like, you don't have to like mask it in cream and butter and all this other stuff if you've got really nice stuff to start with.
Yeah.
Like if you got beautiful leeks, there's not a whole lot you got to do with them.
You don't need to do it. Right. Yeah. One of my favorite dishes at
rinse
Supperland.
the dirt out of them. Like if you do that, you're winning.
You're winning.
Put a little salt.
Salt, a little bit of olive oil.
Yeah, throw them on the grill and you're there.
Yep.
You made
One of my favorite dishes at Supperland is a dish that was inspired by something that we make almost every week. Particularly at that time, I was making it probably twice a week, but it only has 3 ingredients, and it's our onions. So get that when you go tonight. Okay. But it's got onions, olive oil, and salt, and that's it. Awesome. And they are it's all about the cook. You cook it at a real high temperature at first, and then you let it sit. And to me, as a dinner at Supperland is not dinner at Supperland without those onions because of the flavor that it adds to any dish that you have. You just put a little bit of that too with it, and it just is so creamy. It melts in your mouth. It's just delicious. So
cool.
Just comfy onions almost with just like char on top.
I love it. Yeah,
half
I love that. And like the smoke and stuff and like live fire adds such a character to food, and it's a finicky lady. The fire is like it's a hard technique to master. I don't know if there is mastering of it actually.
No,
I think you're kind of always.
You gotta stay on your toes.
Yeah. I had to work a wood-fired grill at Oriole in New York with when I worked for Charlie Palmer, and that man, I mean, we were busy.
It's so hot up there too. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah, you really got to be focused and you got to be connected to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it changes, right? Like the hot spot on a wood-fired grill isn't the same like it is. On a plancha or like a flat top, right? You're like, oh, that's my hot spot over there. Right. You're like, it's always the hot spot. On a grill, it's like, what's going on in this thing? Yeah, you got to just be aware of what's happening at all the time and what you're cooking and all that kind of, man.
Well, I'm so glad you're going to go.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. Thank you.
You'll have fun.
What else do we need to talk about? We've been going for a minute. We all got stuff to do. Is there anything else that you guys want to cover for our people?
No, I just love how grown up you guys are. Like you guys have an office.
People are so surprised.
Yeah, we're like, you guys have an office. We all work from our couches. We were like, we're not real yet. We're not a real restaurant group, I don't think.
Well, we started the offices just recently. Well, not recently. It's been a few years, but as we've grown, like we have accountants now. Like we have HR.
Right.
That's like a thing that we have, which we never had early on. We were just kind of like putting these things together. So. Yeah. We had to kind of centralize a little bit.
How many locations do you have? I know
We've got 5 currently.
5.
So Ophelia's will be 6.
Okay.
And Denver will be 7.
Okay, that's 7. Okay.
So we're working on
the Church and Union is there and in Charleston.
Yep, and Nashville.
Yeah,
okay. So we got the 3 Church and Unions. We have La Belle Helene, which was the one that fell in our lap.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That was our surprise.
Gotta take this one.
Yeah. I was
surprise,
like,
baby.
I'm like, ugh. But I mean, it's everything that I wanted, right? Like I came up in French brasseries. I was like, okay, we're doing this no matter what it takes.
Yeah.
It might kill me, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. I mean,
it's such a cool space. Yeah. It's awesome.
Beautiful.
And it was like, we didn't have to.
It's next door.
It was already built.
Yeah.
We just had to like walk in and like figure out what we wanted to do, which was amazing. So we're loving that. And then Tempest. So that's our.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah. It's going. Well, listen, thank you guys for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I love what you guys are doing. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Keep doing it. I can't wait to see what happens in Dilworth.
It's going to be fun.
Too.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. And then and let's circle back in like a year.
I love it.
And like have a little like.
And we'll talk about all the restaurants that aren't quite open yet.
Like, where are we? What are we
Did
doing?
you get anywhere fast enough?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's crazy how are you guys actively trying to grow, or is it just like
we have it's kind of a commitment to the staff of if we're not adding restaurants and growing and doing stuff, then exactly. You can't just sit there and wait for your exec chef to die to get an exec chef job, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
And we don't want to.
And you've got talent coming up that's like.
And we want to keep putting resources and money and education and all this stuff towards people and let them grow and be awesome.
Yeah.
And then why do we want to do that just to lose them? So it is we're trying to grow our people, trying to get better, and so we have that going. We have another space that we're possibly looking at, so we're gonna keep going and keep the staff going until they said they're done. We'll
just keep filling it up. I love it. Well, you guys are doing an awesome job for the industry too, in your company culture and stuff. So keep going. Like you got in order to change what we're doing right for the better. You got to grow it. You can't one restaurant isn't going to change anything.
Right.
Maybe some experiences for individuals, but not the industry as a whole. So.
And what you guys have done, just looking at like your Tip the Kitchen program, how different that is. I think those are the things that everybody in this industry, because the industry has changed so much and the expectations are so high across the board, that we have to think about things differently. So doing something like Tip the Kitchen, or bringing people up to a living wage, or doing different types of insurance programs or healthful things for staff, or whatever it is that that kind of stuff. Looking at it differently is how this industry will still stay alive.
100%. I love it.
Love it, man.
Thank you guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.